We're going to continue now where we left off. This will be called Quran Brown 8 and will be saved in the Quran folder. Now, as I say, what we're going to do now is use this book where he compares this verse with the Bible. Now, I won't read from it the Quran itself. That's the way where it says that there was a conjecture whether it was Jesus on the cross or not. Now, I will read some of this. We'll see how much we can get through, but I will begin where he says, this verse is usually understood by Muslim scholars to mean that God changed someone to look like Jesus, and that this other person was mistakenly killed by the Jews, whereas Jesus escaped death entirely. This understanding is influenced by reading the Surah number 3, verse 54, which has God devise or plot in a response to those who plotted against Jesus. There is another Islamic writer who explains the one slain and crucified, who was an associate of theirs, the Jews, was given the resemblance of Jesus. In other words, God cast his, Jesus, likeness to him, and so they thought it was him, Jesus. Compare also a translation, they give the name of another person that says, but the resemblance to Isa, Jesus, was put over another man as they killed that man. In fact, the verse does not deny that Jesus was crucified or that he died. It only denies that the Jews killed him. Now, I have not seen that said before. That's a very different way of putting it. Let me read it again. In fact, this verse does not deny that Jesus was crucified or that he died. It only denies that the Jews killed him. The reason for this denial is quite particular to the Quran, that insists that God is the one who gives life and death. Now, you will see that in other sections of the Quran. In describing the manner in which God causes death, the Quran elsewhere uses a certain verb and then he gives it. This is the verb in the Quran that has God used to announce that God himself will cause Jesus to die, and that Jesus uses after his resurrection into heaven to speak of how God caused him to die. Now, thus, this with this verse, the Quran means not to deny the death of Jesus, but to use the Israelis' claim of having killing Jesus, a prophet of God, as an example, along with others mentioned in this section, of Jewish perfidy. That means that the Jews as killers of prophets. In this, it is comparable to those passages in the Acts of the Apostles where the crucifixion is described as the climax of a long history of Israeli infidelity. And I will read you what he quotes from Acts. It was you who accused the holy and upright one, you who demanded that the murder should be released to you, while you killed the Prince of Life. God, however, raised him from the dead, and to that fact we are witnesses. So now, indeed, if you go into the next section, it will go particularly into people of the book and how they witness Jesus' resurrection. And there's a whole section in there also about his resurrection before death and so forth. And that is something like the other section. But when Jesus is resurrected, that means he will come back again at the end of time to get rid of all the infidelity and all the evil, and will create a better world and make a new resurrection of all the faithful on earth. This concludes our section on this part of the Quran. We hope you've enjoyed this as we have.